Welcome to Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristin Harmel, Kristy Woodson Harvey, and Patti Callahan Henry are 4 longtime friends with more than 70 published books between them. Together, they host Friends and Fiction, with author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, to highlight and support independent bookstores. They discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hello, everyone. It is Wednesday night, and that means it's time for Friends in Fiction. I'm Patti Callahan Henry.
I'm Kristin Harmel.
And I'm Mary Kay Andrews.
And this is Friends in Fiction, 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories to support indie bookstores, authors, and librarians and readers like you. This week's episode is our 1 live show of the month. As you can see, we are missing our 4th tonight. Our Gilmore Girl loving Kristy Woodson Harvey is interviewing Kelly Bishop in person in Raleigh tonight about her new memoir, The Third Gilmore Girl. And we miss Kristy terribly. But the 3 of us are so thrilled to welcome this month's Friends in Fiction featured author, Jodi Picoult, to discuss her new novel, our September 2024 pick of the month, By Any Other Name. The book was just released on August 20th. It hit #1 on the New York Times, and we are so excited to speak with Jodi about it.
Yeah, but first, we want to alert you to our upcoming Friends in Fiction live events. Tickets are on sale now, but going fast for 2 back-to-back in-person events happening next weekend in North Carolina. We'll be in High Point, North Carolina, on Friday, September 27th for a fundraiser for earlier.org. And we will be in Winston-Salem, North Carolina on Sunday, September 29th, where the 4 of us will be the keynote at the festival closing brunch event for the Bookmarks Festival of Books and Authors. We have 2 more live in-person events in Florida in November, too. Meg will share the ticketing links in the comments. You can get the details for all 4 of these events in our newsletter each week and on our website.
Speaking of our website, remember you can visit friendsandfiction.com to find our show schedule, details on our in-person events, which Mary Kay just mentioned, and links to our bookshop.org page, to the Friends in Fiction official book club with Brenda and Lisa, to our merch store, and to our newsletter sign up. In other words, for anything Friends in Fiction related, check out friendsandfiction.com.
And have y'all checked out our Substack? So it is so much more than a newsletter. Our Substack is called Friends and Fiction Endless Stories. And you can read all our weekly posts at our website on Substack or on the app. And if you subscribe, those posts will land in your inbox so that you never miss a thing. And sometimes we have more than 1 a week. And we have so many special things. For paid subscribers, we offer incredible extra content, including deeper dives with all our show guests. So you would get Jodi's back green room, which, by the way, was really great, and her Q&A, plus monthly roundtable discussions amongst the 4 of us and our publishing friends. So there was a 2-partner that Ron and I just did, where we talked about libraries and librarians, and we interviewed librarians, and it was fascinating. The myths around what we think they do and what they really do. It's awesome. It costs just $5 a month or $50 a year, and you can always start free. So check out at friendsandfiction.substack.com.
And now we have something we really want to celebrate, right, ladies?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Pat, wait, did I go out of order?
No.
You're
Before
right.
we welcome tonight's guest.
Yes, before we welcome tonight's guest. Patty, do I not hear a drum roll?
Oh. Yes. Are you ready for the drum roll?
Yes.
Are you ready? Okay. Okay.
We want to announce and we want to thank everybody. We at friendsandfiction.com, we just reached the 250,000 Milestone.
Amazing.
We have 250,000 members on our Facebook page, and it was a long way from that crazy night in April 2020 when the four of us did not know what the hell we were doing. So thank you all. Thank you all so much for hanging in there with us. We've enjoyed the ride.
It's been incredible. All right, everyone, let's welcome our friend Jodi. Jodi is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of 29 novels, including Mad Honey, Wish You Were Here, The Book of Two Ways, My Sister's Keeper, and with her daughter Samantha Van Leer, she wrote 2 young adult novels, Between the Lines and Off the Page.
Jodi's books have been translated into 34 languages in 35 countries. 4 of her novels, The Pact, Plain Truth, The 10th Circle, and Salem Falls, have been made into television movies. My Sister's Keeper was a film released from New Line Cinema with Nick Cassavetes directing and Cameron Diaz starring.
Oh, that movie was so good
So
and
good.
so heartbreaking. I loved it so
Yeah.
much. So Mad Honey is currently in development too, which is very exciting. Small Great Things and Wish You Were Here have been optioned for motion picture adaptation as well. Jodi also wrote 5 issues of DC Comics Wonder Woman, which is absolutely so cool.
What can
And
she not
appropriate.
do? I know.
Yes.
Which we talked about in the green room. So you guys have to go
Yeah.
listen to that. She is also the and I hope I don't mess up this word, librettist
Yep.
for the stage musical adaptation of her 2 young adult novels, co-written with her daughter, which premiered off-Broadway in summer of 2021 and is currently licensed through Music Theater International. She is also the co-librettist of the musical Breathe, which was inducted into the Library of Congress's Performing Arts COVID-19 Response Collection, which is so cool.
Yeah.
Also of the musical adaptation of one of my very favorite books of all time, The Book Thief by Marcus Suzak, which will debut in the West End in London. I think I'm going to have to go.
Yeah,
I think
I
I'm
can't
gonna
wait to see it.
Let's all go.
Let's go. In the fall of 2025. This is doable. I'm doing this. And the musical adaptation of Austenland currently in development. We're going to dig into this just as much as we love her new novel.
Speaking of her new novel, By Any Other Name, was just released, as we mentioned, August 20th. It rocketed instantly to #1 on the New York Times list, and that is not an easy achievement these days.
It's huge.
So instead of talking about Jodi, let's talk to her.
Please. Sean, could you bring Jodi on?
Hey guys. Hey, congratulations on 250,000. That's incredible.
Isn't that incredible?
Yes, that's so cool.
250,000.
That is really awesome. Really awesome.
Thank you.
It really is. My gosh, I know if you told me when I was in high school one day I'd have 250,000 friends, it would have made me
Right.
feel a lot better about
Well,
where
it
I was in high
makes you feel like
school.
about how alone you felt during COVID. And,
Yes.
that's such a testament to you guys
Oh,
bringing
you're
people
so
together.
sweet. Oh, thanks for saying that. Well,
Yeah.
we actually think you must be our good luck charm because the
Yep.
last time you were here, we were celebrating our 1-year anniversary, and you willingly wore a crown with us, if memory serves
Oh, yes.
correctly.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
tonight,
look,
of
I'll
course,
wear a crown even if you don't ask me. So
Okay.
we were remiss in not sending you one, obviously. We dropped the ball.
Yeah.
So tonight, of course, we're celebrating 250,000 members. So you, Jodi, are our celebratory icon. So cheers.
Yay!
Cheers to #1 on the New York Times bestseller list for you.
Thank
and to
you.
250,000 members for us. Cheers, everybody.
Where's my imaginary wine in the hotel room? Cheers.
And my non-alcoholic wine. So
And my Pellegrino water.
And my peach soda.
There we go.
All right.
We can toast
Great.
anything.
No, for all of you out there, we are live tonight. So remember to drop your questions for Jodi in the comments. And make sure you stick around for the after show tonight because we're going to reveal our guest lineup for the next 3 months. We can't guarantee that it's going to be as much fun as we're going to have with Jodi in a minute, but it's going to be pretty fun.
Great.
All right, it's that time, Jodi. It's time
Yes.
to talk about By Any Other Name.
Can't
so,
wait.
for those of you out there who haven't read it, which I don't think there's that many of you, this is the story of 2 women across 400 years. In 1581, we'd meet Amelia Bassano, a female playwright whose work is not allowed before the public because, she's a woman. She winds up paying for a man for the use of his name, and his name just happens to be William Shakespeare. In 2024, it is also the story of her descendant, a woman named Melina Green, who has written a play about her ancestor, Amelia, but she can't get it produced because theater is still very much a man's world. So, Jodi, I want to start with the origin of this story and the historical character, because this is a kind of, to me, a love letter to words. Two women across time, Shakespeare's authorship of 38 plays, poems, and sonnets. So some stories come to us in a flash. So what happened to you for this one? Can you tell us the first moment you thought, whoa, Amelia Bassano, that's the woman and I want to write about her?
So years ago, I was an English major, fell in love with Shakespeare. And in particular, what I really, really loved was his female characters, right? They were like so three-dimensional, Beatrice and Rosalind and Portia and Kate, and nobody else was writing women like that. Maybe for 5 minutes at the end of a lecture, I had a professor say, there's a question about Shakespeare's authorship and whether he wrote everything on his own. And like every other English major, I was like, well, that's silly. Of course he wrote everything on his own.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about it for decades. Then I was reading an article in The Atlantic by a woman named Elizabeth Winkler, terrific historian and journalist. And in it, she mentioned a fact that just absolutely stopped me dead, which is Shakespeare had two daughters. They survived infancy. He did not teach either of them to read or write. And I went, oh, no, 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 no. The guy who wrote those amazing women absolutely would have taught his daughters how to read and write. And she also mentioned the name of an authorship candidate I'd never heard of, and that was Amelia Bassano. And so half this book is based in reality. Amelia Bassano was a real living person. And I didn't know much about her. And as I began to do all of this deep dive into research, the more I realized that almost without even trying, Amelia's life seamlessly fits all the gaps in Shakespeare's that academics have tried to pretzel themselves into for years to explain away how he could have possibly written the plays that he did.
I love origin stories, like that feeling where you read an article and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There's a story here. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the deeper I dove, the more I realized that again, so many things kept pointing back to Amelia. There are absolutely going to be naysayers, but let me try to convince you. And I kind of love the fact that so many people have written me in the month that it's been out to say, oh, 100% I believe you. I definitely think that she was the author of some of those plays. Yeah.
Yeah, it strikes me that a lot of this play is about, or the book is a lot of it is about being seen as a woman.
Yes. I think this is a book about how women have been judged differently than men historically, how women have been written out of history by the men who were writing it, how women have had their voices silenced and are still being silenced today. I mean, in a lot of ways, this book is making you look at what's changed in 400 years for women and how much really has not changed in 400 years for women. So there's so much that there's so much that's resonant between Amelia's story and Melina's story, which is what a modern female playwright would be going through on Broadway today. And I think it's, for me, this book, I've been saying this is the book of my heart. And I really mean that. I mean, we all love our new books, right?
Yeah.
But this is the book that I think I was meant to write.
Wow.
I think that 35 years of being in this business led me to this point. And I think it's because I write about controversial things all the time, but I'm rarely living those controversies. But I know exactly what it's like to be judged differently as a female author, and I bet all you guys do too. I mean, I've literally been on a plane every day for the past month, and you sit down and your seatmate goes, "Oh, what do you do?" And I say, "I'm a novelist," and they say, "Oh, you write children's books."
Yes.
Right? And I say, "No," and they go, "Romance? No. Women's fiction?" Why we are still pigeonholing women in 2024 into a place that we feel they fit is unconscionable. And I also feel like this book is resonating so deeply with people right now because being a woman in America is a very weird crossroads right now.
It is.
Down one path, you're seeing your reproductive rights being just completely eviscerated. And down the other path is the potential for the first female president, and it's kind of like, okay, America, which way are we going to go here?
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
very interesting release timing for this particular book.
Yeah, I love that Melina says being a woman means being told to speak up for yourself in one breath and to shut up in the next.
Mm-hmm. That's my favorite speech in the entire play, which, by the way, is what I call my Barbie speech. And I wrote it before the Barbie movie came out.
No, it's very moving to hear Melina in modern day 24 say, here's still the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you have such a talent, Jodi, for sort of honing in on the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Of what's going around, last year with Mad Honey, same thing. I think, do you feel like that's one of your very special skills?
Honestly, I think I get accused of being psychic like all the time because I write about things that tend to wind up in the news. I really think it's just that I write about the things that are bugging me like deeply. And I think I worry about the same thing that a lot of people do,
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like you should be a political consultant on the side to let people know what's coming down the pipeline.
That is exactly what I do not want to do.
Opposite world. Let's go to opposite world.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
So Amelia describes Shakespeare as having, quote, a receding hairline and a weak chin badly camouflaged by a dark beard. So even here, we're not being primed to feel any sort of affection toward Shakespeare. And of course, you make it clear in your author's note, as you just made clear here, that you do not believe he was the author of the many plays, the long poems, the sonnets, and with all these astounding female characters that were attributed to him. You talked a little bit about arriving at that belief, but in your research, aside from Amelia, are there other candidates who might have written his plays?
Yes, there are plenty of candidates who've been suggested over the years. Francis Bacon is one of them. Christopher Marlowe is one of them. The Earl of Oxford is probably the most popular leading candidate for people
and he's
who believe
really
it.
fun in the novel. He's
the Earl of Oxford or Christopher Marlowe?
Both.
Oxford just gets into a lot of trouble in the novel.
Yeah, I just think
Christopher Marlowe is like one of my favorite characters in the book.
Yes.
But a lot of people, all of those people had different reasons for not being able to write a certain play under their own name. But there also have been women who have been proposed as potential authors, from Queen Elizabeth herself to Mary Sidney, the Countess of Pembroke, to Elizabeth Carey. But, again, there's a very strong academic cohort of Stratfordians who immediately say you are a crackpot, you're a conspiracy theorist if you bring up any of this. And yet, yes, I do give Shakespeare a receding hairline, but that felt very fair. In my mind, all the research that I've done on him, the actual primary source research, did not show him to be a great guy. What we really know about him, we know he was a producer. We know he was an actor. We know he was a businessman. We literally have proof of all of those things. We know that he evaded taxes twice. We know that he had multiple restraining orders taken out against him by business colleagues. We know that when there was a famine, he jacked up the price of grain in Stratford and he made his neighbors pay exorbitant fees for the grain.
Wow.
We know that he never left the country, but he managed to write about places that had, with great detail, that wasn't available in guidebooks at the time, like Denmark and Italy and Egypt. We know that he did not play a musical instrument, but there are more references to music in the plays than any other body of literature. We know that he was not formally educated. He didn't go to university. There's even a question about whether he went to grammar school. Again, totally fine. You could educate yourself. But when he died, he did not own a single book. And there weren't libraries then. So how is he doing all of this research, right? And when he died, no other playwrights at the time said anything about him dying, even though his name was by far the best known playwright of the time. And he wasn't buried in Poets' Corner at Westminster Abbey, although a lot of people you've never heard of made that cut. So,
I was going to say, that's the one that hit me, because I've actually been there.
But here's the thing. We do not have a manuscript. We do not have his handwriting on a manuscript. We actually have one bit of handwriting on a note of a manuscript that somebody else wrote. That's it. We only have 6 signatures from the guy, and none of them match. And if he was such an accomplished playwright, he would have had a signature. Everyone else did if you were a man of letters. So somehow this mythology has been built up around Shakespeare that just doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, what compelling arguments. That's so fascinating. I've never heard it all laid out like that before. You mentioned that that you have enjoyed getting emails from people who say like, "Oh, I'm convinced." But what about the other feedback? What about from the people who say what you've said, quote, "There are entire academic careers built on the premise that Shakespeare was the most remarkable writer of all time. Pull the rug out from beneath that premise and lots of careers topple." Yeah. So what has that experience been like from you, hearing from those people who just disagree with such vehemence?
So I did an event in Henley in the UK before the book was out. It hasn't actually been published there yet. It's being published in a couple weeks. But I went there in May and I did this event and I talked about all this. And there was a guy who wrote a whole submitted things as an editorial letter to papers and to magazines, saying that I am just a conspiracy theorist and that there's no proof of this and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you haven't even read the book, man. How can you possibly discount it if you haven't read my book? Not to mention the fact that I am technically writing fiction. It is all very heavily grounded in fact. And in my author's note, I tell you exactly what I made up, and it's not the parts that you would think. So, that kind of started me off in May. Since the book has been out, I've had a couple of academics, professors emeritus write me, tell me I'm insane, tell me that this is such garbage. And the way they write the letters almost makes me feel like they haven't really read the book. You know how you can tell when someone's read your book?
100%.
Yeah. So I don't think they've read the book. And I'm like, well, by all means, mouth off, go right ahead. You can believe whatever you want. I don't need to convince you of my beliefs. What I'm going to do is lay out all my evidence on the page and let you make a decision yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And if they're not brave enough to go down the path of actually reading it, then, what's the point?
That feels like their problem. Exactly.
Exactly. That's not on you.
Like their problem. All right. I want to ping back a little bit to women authors. Yeah. Sometimes we go into a novel with the theme in mind, and sometimes it just emerges. And I love this line. In the 1500s, Amelia is talking to a man, one of her dearest friends, and he says, "To think that you might be as uncontrollable as we are." I just loved that, and I laughed out loud. And then in modern day, Melina offers us a list of women who have pretended to be men in order to publish, including the Bronte sisters, George Eliot, George Sand, J.K. Rowling. So both Amelia and Melina are in search of themselves and their own power, but they're both thwarted by discrimination and bias.
Right.
Do you think that, like Amelia and Melina, we can use our writing to say and face head on what others think can't be said out loud?
Clearly.
I love it.
I mean, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Do. Yeah.
Right. I'm literally taking on a religion. Shakespeare is a religion at this point. He is not just the man from Stratford. He has become inflated into mythological belief. And that is literally what I'm trying to pull the rug out from beneath.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things I wanted to bring up in the book, and you do see this happen, is that sometimes when you are from a marginalized group, whether that is female or a person of color or somebody queer or somebody with a disability, if you are saying over and over your truth, people just kind of go, they don't listen to you. And then when a white man says, she's right, all of a sudden everybody listens.
Yeah.
And that's an unfortunate thing.
Jodi.
It is exhausting. I mean, there's a line in there that being a woman is exhausting. That's really what it is. And, it is exhausting, but there are good men out there. Yes. And there are men who are willing to stand up for people who are not white men. And I do believe, I have to have faith that there will be more and more of them who come to our side and say, listen to them.
Yeah. All right, we're going to switch gears here, going back to the plays. Now, you've written 5 plays and musicals before this novel, and we know that you have all kinds of ways of expressing your creativity, from TikTok to plays to YA to co-writing, or to doing little videos of your dog welcoming you home. So
Well,
cute.
that was my husband filming that, so
Okay.
he gets all the credit.
But yeah, but by any other name, this novel, there is a play within the novel. It's so imaginative, and it really enriches the story. Did you know that you were going to do this when you first started working on the book?
Yeah, I mean, the play within the play, really, which is very like Hamlet, is that By Any Other Name is the name of the play that Melina writes about her ancestor, Emilia. Of course, it's also a reference to Romeo and Juliet. And I knew that I wanted to separate the every Melina and Emilia chapter. They're in like a duology, and I wanted each one to be separated by a page of script. So actually, I did exactly what I would do if I were adapting a book for a musical. I went to my librettist, my co-librettist, and I sent him the entire Emilia section of the book. And I said, let's pick the one scene from each chapter that we want to immortalize in this script.
Wow.
And then we sat down together and we wrote one page from that scene together. And so he said to me, he goes, don't think I'm not noticing that this time I'm a guy and I'm the one not being credited. I was like, oh, it's okay. You'll be fine. I do give him credit at the end, but you know, it was really fun because it was exactly the way we adapt everything else. It's just, you know, it happened to be this fictional story that I wrapped around the real facts of Emilia's life. And yeah, it was really fun to do that. I've had many people write and say, is this a show? Are we going to get to see the show? And, you know, we'll see, maybe.
That's awesome.
You left the door open.
Yeah, what
Yeah,
a cool touch
totally.
to the novel.
Yeah.
So, Jodi, from reading Shakespeare, traveling to London, learning about Emilia Bassano, diving into the world of 1500s courtesans, and so much more, the research was obviously really intense. The
Mhm.
juggling of it all, and I say this as someone who writes historical fiction, who's used to,
Yes.
you know, getting completely, you know, wrapped up in the research, but it must have felt overwhelming. There was just so
Yeah.
much. Can you tell us a little bit about your research process?
I bet it feels the same for you, Kristin. I don't write fantasy, but it was the way I imagine fantasy writers feel, because it's almost like you have to cast this magic spell to create the world, and then you have to stick your characters into it. And particularly because I was going so far back, I really needed to create an Elizabethan England that people could see and smell and, you know, and touch, really feel kind of all around them. A lot of the research came from academics. A lot came from a couple of amazing sources. One was something called the August map, which Deb Harkness was the one who put me onto. She's an amazing writer herself who knows a little bit about magic. And so the August map is this interactive map where you can overlay modern England and Elizabethan England. So you can see exactly where like Paris Garden is from Somerset House. How far would Amelia have had to travel? How would she have gotten there? Things like that. So that was a great resource for me. There's another, I don't know who did this, but God bless them. Somebody digitized every day of Queen Elizabeth I's reign in England. So every day, yes, there's a log of what happened every day, who saw her, which, you know, which courtiers were there, when there was a joust, when someone was in favor, when they weren't in favor, who was thrown in the tower, if there was a military mission or an ambassador. So everything that you see in the book, like, for example, what palace they happened to be at that week, when there was a joust, all of that is absolutely legit. All of that, all the military missions, all of it is real. And then the big part of it, of course, is Emilia. And Emilia, luckily, luckily and unluckily, most of Emilia that we know about comes from one primary source document. And it's this guy named Simon Foreman. He's written in the fiction as well. He was this astrologer kind of hack doctor that she went to when she was having miscarriages and she wanted to have another baby. And he was a terrible human being. He tried to sleep with her multiple times. Mind you, he recorded that too, but he really put everything down on paper. And all of that is in his diary in the Ashmolean Museum. So you can all go and read it if you want to. And from that, we learned that Amelia came from this Italian family of incredibly talented musicians. They lived in a place called Bassano del Grappa in Italy. Henry VIII traveled over, heard them playing the recorder, and was like, I'm bringing them all back. Brought a whole bunch of Bassanos to England to be the recorder consort to the king. And then they became the recorder consort to the queen after he died, to Queen Elizabeth. When her family was Jewish, we know that, and they couldn't be Jewish in England, so they had to hide their faith. We know that when she was 7, her dad died, and she was given to a countess as a ward. And this countess was a really, really awesome lady who insisted on giving Amelia a full classical education.
Wow.
Just noting, more than Shakespeare got, also a full legal education. All of this so rare for even a noble child, much less a commoner. Then when she was 12, the countess got remarried. She couldn't go to the Netherlands with her, and she wound up like in limbo and kind of living for a summer with the countess's brother, who happened to be the ambassador to Denmark. And that summer he took a diplomatic mission to Denmark, and either he took Amelia or he came back and told her about it. But while in Denmark, he met the king and queen. He had dinner with a man named Tycho Brahe, who was like this very famous astronomer whose ideas are all over the Shakespearean plays. In fact, the opening scene of Hamlet is everyone looking at the supernova that he discovered. He also had dinner with Tycho Brahe's relatives, who were named Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. You might know those names from Hamlet. And then when Amelia was 13, she gets given to the Lord Chamberlain of England to be his mistress. She's 13, he's 56. Not great, but he is also in charge of all theater, all entertainment in England. So he is going to be reading every play that's written to make sure it's not treasonous, to censor it. He's going to know every producer, every actor, every playwright. He's going to go to rehearsals. He's going to go to opening nights. And for the 10 years Amelia lives with him, she is absolutely going to meet all of the players in that world. When she's 23, she gets thrown out because she gets pregnant. And she gets married off to her cousin, who, again, awful guy, who she hated and who blew through all the money that was settled on her to keep her comfortable. And so now she's 23, has a baby, has a husband she can't stand, and has to find a way to keep her family together and make money. And we don't know anything else about her for 20 years. And then she shows up out of nowhere and becomes the first published female poet in all of England ever. But you guys are writers, and you know that, writers don't just pop up in their 40s. No. They were writing before that. I just think she was using someone else's name to do it.
That gives me
so cool. I know. What incredible.
Yeah. She's awesome. I love her.
I can tell it shines through. Yeah.
I would like to see her on a screen.
Yeah, your passion is so obvious and so refreshing that you're not like blasé about it after all of this.
No, I love her.
Do you, Jodi, personally feel that your creative life is important enough that even you would have hidden your name to do it?
So, fun fact, I actually wound up realizing after I wrote the book that I had made the same decision that Amelia and Melina have to make. When we were writing the stage adaptation of Between the Lines, which was my YA novel, our producer felt that if my name was on the libretto as a co-librettist, it would be seen as a vanity project because I had also written the book and people might not want to invest in it. We might not be able to get it as close to Broadway as possible. And I was like, okay, if that's the only way we're going to get somewhere, okay. So when we debuted off Broadway and the playbill came out, my name was in there with my daughters for writing the source material, but I was not listed as a librettist. And I would do it all over again, but I can tell you it didn't feel great. No. And after the play closed, my writing partner, Tim, went to his lawyer and said, this isn't right. I want her name on everything. And wound up getting my name on the libretto. So now when you license the play and, your theater group performs it, my name is on the materials as one of the writers. And, I like it a lot better. I mean, it's kind of a great reminder that if we have been not giving credit where it's due for 400 years with the Shakespearean plays, shouldn't we?
Yes. I'm persuaded.
Yeah, I'm in.
I'm in.
Well, we wondered that. Like I was reading it and thinking, I want to write bad enough. I would do it.
Right.
Wouldn't you?
What would you do? Wouldn't you do it? Wouldn't you find a way to do it?
Yep.
Look at Jane Austen. Jane Austen published anonymously till after her death, and then her brother got her name attached to her novels. I think women with a brain have always sort of been disadvantaged in the past, and maybe in the present too,
Yeah.
because people don't like to hear a smart woman. We get called shrewish, we get called strident. Think of all the words that you hear associated with women who stand up for themselves,
Yeah, we get
right?
called everything Hillary Clinton got called. And then
Nasty.
Bingo.
There you go.
Right. And, yet when a man does that, he's just being forceful.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
he's
it's
telling it
just
like it is.
double-standard.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's, again, not right.
Agreed. All right. We have so much to talk about and so much more we want to talk about, but we have live questions and we love our live show. So we're going to dive into some of those for a minute. All right. I'm going to start with this question from Aaron Martins because I'm curious about this. How long did it take to research Amelia and that time period?
So the whole book, the research took about a year's time on and off as I was working on other theater projects, actually. Okay. Yeah. And I would say the writing of it was several months. It was probably about like 6 months and then 9 months of writing or something like that. But yeah, it was about that. Amelia's stuff was really concentrated. There just isn't a lot about Amelia because nobody thought to record anything important that women were doing back then because women didn't matter. But in this case, absence of evidence doesn't mean evidence of absence. It's just that women were not considered worthy subjects to live on in history.
Yeah.
And in fact, nowadays, there are a lot of female academics who are starting to piece together writing from women of the time, of the Elizabethan time. The most popular writing of women were letters to their unborn children because everyone expected to die during childbirth. You actually would buy your own shroud before you gave birth.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah. And so now if you did survive, then you burn the letter because that was really bad news, right? You didn't want any kind of bad juju in there. But the few extant examples that they have, they're beginning to piece together as evidence of women's voices back then.
Oh,
wow.
It's fascinating. There's so much good history to write about.
Yeah,
like, how do we even decide? I was like, I want that. I want that. I want to read that. Yeah.
Totally.
Kristin, will you pull one?
Yeah, sure. Susan Schwartz Seligman asks, how do you transition from one book to the next? Do you have difficulty putting your characters to bed and focusing on the next one, especially when book tour occurs in the interim?
So, I actually have learned not to write on book tour. I tried to do that once and then I came home and I was like, what is this? I just had to scrap the whole thing. I'm so tired of book tour because it's just really draining to be moving around as much as you are and, being on every night. So I don't write on tour anymore. I take that break. Usually I'm doing research on a given year and then the next year I'm writing the book, and the year that I'm doing research is the same year that a book is published. So I spent this year doing research for my 2026 novel, but I won't write it until January. So by the time I get back in January, I'm going to be like, I'm ready. I'm excited to get back to the research. I do think it's going to be hard to let go of Amelia because she really got her claws in me. And I would say I'm only half kidding. I think I might have been reincarnated. I don't know. I just feel like her story is so important to me. So I really, I think she'll be with me for a very long time, but I am really excited to dive into, the story that I'm going to pull together out of the research I've been working on all year.
I honestly don't think we've had someone on the show before who talks about their character with the same passion that you do right now. I mean, because I think we all have had the experience of, by the time the book comes out, it's been a year and a half since you wrote it, or a year since you wrote it, and you've gone through, a million rounds of copy edits and line edits that kind of take some of the magic out of it, right?
Yes, totally.
But to hear you this enthusiastic still, she's living with you. I mean, she is alive within you. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I really feel like I was meant to get people to know her name. Yeah, it is just unconscionable to me that we don't know the name of the first woman to publish a book of poetry ever in England. That seems so wrong. Even if you don't believe she had anything to do with Shakespeare, that is worthy of being more than a footnote. Yeah.
You're totally right.
Right.
Mary Kay, you want to grab one?
Well, yeah, because this is a perfect segue. Claudia Dursa says, you've told us how much you love Amelia and this book, by any other name, but she's wondering if there's another book that you've written that strikes so much that is especially dear to you, as dear as this one is.
Yeah, this is like the book of my heart. But the book I always said before this that meant the most to me was Small Great Things. And that's because I became a different person because of writing that book.
Oh, that's incredible.
I learned so much about myself, a lot of it not very flattering, but I learned that there is a difference between saying you're not a racist and being anti-racist. And I live my life differently because of what I came to see about being white and how this skin opens up doors in many ways. I'm just not the same person that I was before writing that book. And, for that reason, I'm always going to be really grateful to that book too.
Did you expect that going into the book? Like,
No.
did you go into it thinking I have to do work on myself?
Absolutely not. I thought I'm a good person. I'm not a racist. Of course I can write about this.
Yeah.
But that is different than being an anti-racist. If you're an anti-racist, you are actively working to make the world a more equitable place, to reduce the systemic racism that keeps a certain group of people down here and allows white people to be up here. And, that's different than just saying, oh, it's wrong. It just shouldn't be like that. It's the difference between just acceptance and action and dismantling.
So powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to grab this last one because it is from a lot of the questions. I see so many of y'all, but they're a repeat of what we've already talked about. So I'm not going to make you repeat, but Emily McKenna says, is there a time period or event that you really want to write about that you haven't yet or might be heading into?
Yeah. And I'm happy to talk about this because it's my 2026 book.
Okay, then we want to hear if you're willing to talk about it.
So 2026, as you know, is the 25th anniversary of 9/11.
Oh, yeah.
And I have wanted to write something about that for a long time. And I was waiting for the right story. How many of do you remember the Tumblr blog Post Secret? Yes. Okay. So Post Secret was a Tumblr blog, then it became a website, now it's an Instagram handle. And basically, like, you send an anonymous postcard into this PO box and it has your deepest, darkest secrets on it. And they publish them like one at a time. And, they could be anything from like super silly stuff. Like, on Friday, I come home, take off all my clothes, walk around naked until Monday when I go to work. To my husband doesn't know that, I've cheated on him 6 times. It could be anything. And one day I saw a Post Secret post that said, everyone who knows me before 9/11 thinks that I'm dead.
I've read this about you. I got chills the first time I heard that, Jodi. What an amazing
It's so cool. I know. I'm excited.
Cool.
I
can't wait to read it.
That's amazing.
Well, I do have to write it first, but yeah.
Get on that. Get off the road, Jodi. We need that book.
You're on the road for at least another 5 weeks. We know that. So
yeah.
Okay, stick around because we have a couple more questions for you. But first, a few quick reminders for all of you viewers and listeners out there.
Now, for all of you watching and listening, we encourage you to rush out and buy your copies of By Any Other Name. And I don't know how you could watch this show and not demand that it land immediately in your inbox.
Yeah.
Now, the perfect place to do that is in the Friends and Fiction shop on bookshop.org. Now, because you'll be getting it at a discount and helping to fund our show, which we can't do without, but also you're going to be supporting our guests and our beloved indie booksellers nationwide. And I know Jodi is a big fan of our indie booksellers.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So we also want to remind you to follow us on Instagram and join our Facebook group, which, as we said, is now officially a full 250,000 member strong, which is so cool. We're so excited about it. So when you visit friendsandfiction.com, you can stay up to date about everything we have going on, and you can sign up for Friends and Fiction Endless Stories on Substack, which is chock full of bonus content. So Jodi, coming back to you, in your book club kit, you have a playlist with a little Taylor Swift, a little Sarah Bareilles, some Justin Bieber, and more. is that what you listened to when you wrote, or is it more of an
No.
inspiration?
I can't listen to any music
See?
when I write.
I think
Me
about the
neither.
words. Yeah.
No, yes, I start
Yeah.
singing and then all of a sudden I'm not writing anything.
Yes.
It's literally my kryptonite. I mean, I can have kids
Same.
running around, I can have like an
Yeah.
airport behind me, but I cannot listen to music.
I can't
100%.
So yeah, it's absolutely all stuff that like as I was driving while I was writing the book, I was like, oh man, this is a really good song for this book. Oh, this is a really good song for this book. And it was kind of fun to
Awesome.
pull them together.
It sounds really fun. Where can our audience access it?
You can go to my website, which is
Mhm.
jodipicoult.com, click
Okay.
on by any other name, and you'll see a book club kit. And it is linked to the book club kit.
Fantastic.
All right. We know you're on the road. You've been on the road. You've been celebrating the New York Times list. You've been talking to thousands of readers. Your pictures are so much fun. I know a lot of our friends in fiction readers and community have been out to see you. They've been talking about it on the page. But how can readers find you online and on book tour? Where's the best place for them to find out? Because you're going back on the road. So tell us.
I am. I'm actually going. I have one more event that you can't go to because it's sold out. But then if you happen to be in the UK or Australia, that's where I'm headed next. But if you go to my website, all of my events are listed there.
Okay.
I am at Jodi Picoult on every other, source that you want to find me on. So I love to meet my readers. I hope that if you haven't gotten to see me this time around, you'll come out in 2026.
Okay, Jodi, thank you so much for being with us in the middle of this hectic schedule and talking about Amelia and Melina and writing as women and Shakespeare and your life and your inspiration. And thank you for sharing your passion with us. It has been such a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you for being on the Friends in Fiction show.
Of course, I can't wait to come back and celebrate whatever your next milestone is.
I know.
All right,
Right?
she's committed. She's committed, girls.
You heard it, people. She said she's coming back. All right, Jodi, you have a great
Thank you
evening.
so much. You take care.
At home. Take care,
Thanks,
Jodi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If this wasn't amazing enough, next week, Kristy and Kristin will welcome Leanne Moriarty to discuss her new novel, Here One Moment. That show will air on the Friends in Fiction Facebook page and YouTube channel on Wednesday, September 25th at 7 p.m. Eastern. And it will be published to our podcast for your listening pleasure on Friday, September 27th.
So thank you to all of you for being here with us. We will see you next time, but stick around because Meg is joining us on the after show and we have so much to talk to you about. So see you in a minute. Good night, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in. You can join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here.
Hey, hey.
What a show, huh?
That was amazing.
I'm dead. I'm just dead. She's
Yeah.
slayed.
Just
She
the,
is-
but the passion she has,
I
like this.
know.
Yep.
Yeah, and I did. I mean, aside from being familiar with the book, I feel like that was the first time I had heard all of that like argued that way in sort of a condensed period of time. Like, I'm convinced. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah. She's such a, I feel like she's such a generous guest. Like she really just lays it all
Yeah.
out there when she
Yep.
comes on the show. And
Yep.
I love her books. And I love that she said Small Great Things is the one that sticks with her because it's my
Yeah.
personal fave.
It's a great book. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really powerful.
I still think about it. Like I think, it's one of those books you think about after you've read it.
Yeah.
And this one, I haven't read it yet. I know Patti loved it. How do you listen to her and not want to read that?
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I was telling somebody asked me the other day about the two books that have really stuck with me, besides, of course, Kristin's and Mary Kay's and Kristy's. And I feel the way about Amelia in By Any Other Name as I do about Damon and Demon Copperhead. Like I think about them as if they're.
For real people. Yep. I
Yes.
feel that way about Demon too.
I think about Demon all the time. Isn't that weird? Okay,
Yeah.
we're weird. All right. I'm thinking about made up people.
That's
Meg.
a good writer for you. Well, so I think we have a big reveal in store, guys.
Wait, drum roll.
Oh yeah. You cannot make any announcement without Patti doing a drum roll.
Nope.
That is true. I help.
Good or bad, it is what it is.
So it took a lot of wrestling details to the ground, and it's like the ultimate puzzle to put together to finally get a season all locked down, but it's done, you guys. So we have October, November, and December all lined up, and our guests are absolutely amazing from start to finish, beginning really soon. So Patti, why don't you talk about the October?
Wait, but before Patti goes into that, though, can we just have like a little round of applause for Meg for being the one who like put this jigsaw puzzle together? I mean, this is like it is magic, and I feel like I don't know. There must have been like 4 Megs working in like the last 2 days. Like, I mean, Meg, it's incredible. It is a work of art. You are incredible.
What you all don't know is that we just throw a bunch of stuff at her, and then it's like it's like a recipe. We just throw everything we've got in our closets, and then she figures out what to, we throw everything we have in the pantry, and she makes a gourmet meal. It's crazy.
At the end, I posted this last year on Instagram, but I feel like at the end I'm like Claire Danes, the mad woman
Exactly.
on Homeland, where she's like in that bunker, like with the string and the Post-its, and
It's hilarious.
That's how I always imagine it. We're putting it together. Yeah.
All right. I'm lucky enough to tell you all about October. So are you listening? Because this is incredible. So the first week we have Jean Hamp Corlitz with her sequel to the plot called, drumroll, The Sequel. So that will be on Facebook on October 2nd and on the podcast on October 4th. The next one we have, and we feel just so lucky to have her because she has been out there battling some things, and we all love her. And that is Sophie Kinsella. Yep. And I know y'all are going to be excited about that too, with her new book called What Does It Feel Like? So that will be on Facebook on October 9th and on the podcast on October 11th. And then next is a friend to all of us and one of your favorite authors. And it's been a while since her last novel. And this one's coming out with a lot of fanfare. It is Mary Beth Whalen with Every Moment Sense. So the Facebook will be October 16th. And the podcast will be October 18th. And then our Friends in Fiction Pick of the Month live show is with Paula Hawkins. We have been trying to have her on for so long, and we are so excited. Her new book is called The Blue Hour, and that will be live on October 23rd and the podcast on October 25th.
I mean, y'all know who Paula Hawkins is, right? I mean, if you read Girl on the Train.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not talking to you guys. I'm talking to the people.
I'm like, yep, know who she is.
I feel like we talked about this in the movie. Okay.
She's one of the greatest thriller writers, well-read thriller writers.
That book took the world by storm when it came out. So,
oh my God.
I'm thrilled.
And then last but not least for October, we're lucky there's 5 weeks in October because this is one of my favorite guests from a couple of years ago, and that is Louise Penny with The Gray Wolf, and that comes out October 30th, which is my son's birthday, and November 1st for the podcast.
I think, and Louise Penny was one of the best guests we've ever had on the show. I mean, it's hard just to say that, to pick one, and I'm not picking one, but I'm just saying, like, if
whenever people ask, I always say that there was just something about like something comes through the screen with her that is just profound. Yes.
She's so warm and I don't know. Yeah. I think she's another one who's very generous with her time and her spirit, right?
Yep. I agree. And you know what? We were talking about this a little bit before the show too. I really do feel like oftentimes the people who are the most successful are the ones who really do open themselves up and give the most back, which makes you just very happy for their success. You know what I mean? Like it feels deserved, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Jodi right at the top of that list.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I'm going to be thrumming with that interview for a while. That was incredible.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, MKA, take us through November.
I can't.
I just said, Meg, you got to do November for
Oh,
us.
you don't have that? All right.
Yeah.
Dog ate my homework.
You printed an old version? Okay.
The dog
I'll
ate my
take us through
homework.
November. I'll gladly take us through November. So the first episode of November, airing November 6th and 8th, is JT Ellison with A Very Bad Thing. We've had JT before. She's a brilliant thriller writer. She's an amazing literary citizen. She's a friend to all of us, I think.
Yes, she's amazing.
And she'll be a great interview. And I can't wait. And then from there on out, guys, it is all boys.
I know. It's
and it's
Boy,
all
Boys
big
Club
guns.
November.
We
I
have
don't know.
brought out the big guns. First up is David Baldacci with To Die For. He's never been on the show, which is amazing. We have all met him in person. Kristin has done an event with him together. We admire him and his work, and I think it's about high time we had him on the show. So here he comes. And the live show for November, our one live show, our pick of the month for November is making all of Mary Kay Andrews' personal dreams come true. Is Michael Connelly with his new book, The Waiting. For any of you who watch Bosch on TV, that is Michael Connelly. MK, tell us more about Michael Connelly and why we should all love him so much.
Like me, he's a former journalist. He started his career at the Fort Lauderdale Sun-Sentinel, I think, and then was a very highly awarded crime writer for the LA Times for many years. And so Tom and I, my husband and I, it's the only book we always both read. And Harry Bosch is an iconic cop. He's a troubled soul, and also the creator of The Lincoln Lawyer.
Yeah. Right.
And so I think he's still currently got 2 series going, Bosch and The Lincoln Lawyer, and now the spinoff from Bosch is Bosch Legacy with Bosch's daughter. So I hate to fangirl, but I'm fangirling.
You get to
I
love that we've been waiting so long for him, and his novel's called The Waiting.
Yeah. That is the truth. And we kept trying, and he's so busy.
And now it's working, and we waited for The Waiting.
All those adaptations and everything, but we finally pinned him down. I mean, the book comes out in October, so everyone should have time to read it before he comes on the show.
Yeah, that's
we
true.
can ask live questions. Yeah.
We took whatever chance we could get to have him, so he's our November pick. And the last show of the month of November is another return guest and another king of the TV adaptation, Craig Johnson of Longmire fame.
Also, you're a fan.
Nice guy. Oh my God.
He'll be joining us for his new book, Tooth and Claw, which I believe is a novella, a short story. I may have that wrong, but so that show is November 27th and 29th, and that is November. JT Ellison and all the boys.
Yeah, and Longmire, I think I read they're going to do a reboot for television.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's what I read.
Such a great series. I met him when I did a live event with him. And that man had a line out the room, around the building. I was like, hey. And
like, I think his bio says he lives in some town that has like fewer than 100 residents or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, Kristin.
All right. We finished off with December, which is also fabulous. So the first show in December, which airs December 4th and on podcast on December 6th, is Signe Pike, The Shadowed Land, which I think Patti and I have both had the chance to read. It's incredible. It is set, it's I think the 3rd in her series, but you do not need to have read the 2 previous books. Although it's a long time between now and December 4th, you have time to catch up on the series. But the book's great. It is set during the time of King Arthur as he sort of rises to the role of king, which is very cool. But it's like about history's real King Arthur, which is really interesting. Our next show, December 11th and 13th, is Gillian Cantor, The Greatest Lie of All, which looks fabulous. Our Friends in Fiction pick of the month is live on December 18th. It'll also be on the podcast December 20th. And that's Hazel Gaynor and Heather Webb, who we love separately, but we love them together when they combine forces and write these amazing books. This one coming in December is called, or actually coming out before then, but set in December is Christmas with the Queen. So that's going to be our December pick of the month. We're excited about that. And then we are closing out the year with a show that actually airs on Christmas. And then on the podcast 2 days later, it's going to be our Friends in Fiction Secret Santa holiday party. So for those of you who mentioned from time to time that you miss the episodes that are just kind of us bantering and talking and, really sharing things with each other, this is a little bit of a return to that, to sort of close out the year as our Friends in Fiction family of 250,000 plus.
Yeah, exactly. Gather around the table, y'all.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Pack your holiday sweaters out.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys, what a night. What a night. What a night. Jodi, and it's scheduled for October, November, and December.
Yeah. I know. I just wish
Good
Kristy
stuff.
had been here. We missed her, but I'm
miss her.
Yeah.
sure she's having a fabulous evening.
I
know
can't wait
she
to
is.
hear about it.
Yeah.
I don't know a bigger Gilmore Girl fan in the
Yep.
world.
No.
Yep.
I don't either.
So I think that I'm sure she's having the time of her life, but I'm sure she misses us too.
Yes.
All right, you guys, what a night.
What a night.
Good night,
Night,
everyone.
everybody.
Good night. And
Right,
cheers
good
on
night.
250,000.